Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. You are okay just the way you are. You may not feel like it every day. You may not look like the person on your timeline, and your life might not be where you thought it would be right now. But let me remind you of something. God didn't make no mistakes. You are exactly who you're supposed to be in this moment, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something straight from the heart. You were never designed to fit in. You were designed to stand out. You were not born to blend with the crowd. You were born to rise above it. See, God didn't use a template when He made you. He didn't look at somebody else and say, let me make another one just like that. No, He made you one of one, a limited edition, a masterpiece that can't be duplicated. But the problem is, too many of us spend our whole lives trying to fit into boxes that were never built for us. You look around and the world keeps telling you who you should be, how you should act, what you should wear, what success should look like. They'll tell you your dream is too big, your voice is too loud, your style is too different. But the truth is, the very thing people tell you to tone down is the thing that makes you powerful. It's your difference that gives you your edge. Every successful person you've ever admired, every legend, every icon, they all had something about them that didn't fit in. They weren't trying to be like everybody else. They were brave enough to be themselves. I remember back when I was trying to make it in comedy. Everybody told I didn't have the right look. I didn't have the right sound. They said, Steve, your voice is too country. You need to talk more proper. And I tried to fit into what they wanted me to be. I tried to sound like the guys I thought were making it. But every time I did, it felt wrong. It felt fake because it wasn't me. Then one day I said, I'm going to do me. I'm going to talk the way I talk, tell my stories the way I live them. I trust that the right people will get it. And you know what happened? The moment I stopped pretending, that's when my career took off. Because people don't connect to perfection, they connect to real. See, your uniqueness is not a weakness. It's your calling card. The world has enough copies. It's waiting for something authentic. It's waiting for you to show up with all your quirks, your ideas, your weird laugh, your accent, your history, your scars, all of it. You don't have to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. You don't have to dull your shine just because someone else feels insecure in your light. You have every right to take up space in this world. Sometimes life has a funny way of making you question who you are. You go through things that make you doubt your worth. People criticize you, situations break you, dreams get delayed. And before long, you start believing maybe something's wrong with you. But let me tell you something, what you see as flaws might be the exact thing that sets you apart for greatness. Maybe you talk too much. Maybe that voice was meant to inspire others. Maybe you feel things too deeply. Maybe that compassion was meant to heal people. Maybe you think fitly. Maybe that's because your mind was designed to change the world. The biggest mistake you can make in life is trying to be a copy when you were born an original. You can't walk into your destiny wearing somebody else's shoes. They won't fit. Even if they did, you couldn't walk far because that path wasn't built for you. You got to walk your own. That means you might have to go against the grain sometimes. You might have to stand alone for a while. You might have to let go of people who don't see your value. And that's okay. Because every time you choose to be yourself, You get one step closer to the life you're meant to live. Let me tell you something else. The world won't always clap for your uniqueness. Some people won't understand you, and that's fine. They don't need to. It's not their assignment to see your vision, it's yours. When I first started on TV, people said, "Man, Steve's too loud, too real, too raw." But guess what? That's who I am. I wasn't going to water down my personality just to fit into some television mold. I decided if they didn't want me as me, then they weren't meant for me. And that decision right there, that's what made me stand out. Because when you're real, people feel it. You don't have to force it. Let me talk to the young folks for a minute. You might be scrolling through social media, seeing everybody else living what looks like a perfect life. You see the cars, the vacations, the clothes, the smiles, and you start thinking, "Man, I wish I was like that." But listen, what you're looking at ain't always real. Most people only show you their highlight reel, not the behind the scenes struggle. Don't trade your real life for someone else's illusion. You don't need to look like them, sound like them, or live like them to matter. You already matter. When God gives you a gift, He gives it to you. And He expects you to use it in your way. Nobody else can do what you do the way you do it. And if you spend your life trying to imitate somebody else, the world loses out on what only you could bring. That's the tragedy. Not that people fail, but that they never even try to be themselves. They hide behind masks their whole life because they're afraid of judgment. But you know what's worse than being judged? Regret. Regret will eat you alive. Regret of not being brave enough to show up as yourself. You got to wake up every morning and remind yourself, I'm not supposed to be like them. I'm supposed to be me. When you do that, something powerful happens. Your confidence changes. Your energy changes. You start walking with purpose, and people feel that. People are drawn to authenticity because it's rare. In a world full of filters, being real is revolutionary. You don't need approval to be yourself. You don't need permission to be great. The moment you accept yourself fully, not halfway, not sometimes, but fully, that's when peace shows up. That's when you stop chasing validation and start living in purpose. Because let me tell you, once you know who you are, nobody can tell you who you're not. So embrace your uniqueness. Love the things that make you different. Celebrate the fact that you don't fit in. Because that's what makes you stand out. And standing out, that's where your power lies. You're not supposed to blend in with the background. You were meant to be the masterpiece that catches the light. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest traps we fall into is comparing our journey to somebody else's. We live in a world that constantly shows us what everybody else is doing, what they got, where they're going, what they're wearing, what they're achieving. You can't swirl 2 seconds without seeing somebody's success story pop up in your face. And little by little, you start looking at your own life like something's wrong with it. You start saying, why not me? When is it going to be my turn? But let me tell you something. Comparison is a silent killer. It doesn't take your breath away. It takes your peace away. It doesn't stop your heart. It stops your gratitude. See, every single person in this room has a different timeline. God didn't build no two lives the same. You can't compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 10. You don't know what that person had to go through to get where they are. You don't know the nights they cried, the rejections they faced, the prayers they prayed when nobody was watching. All you see is the highlight reel, the success, the smile, the end result. But behind every success is a process, and your process might take longer because your purpose might be bigger. When I was struggling in my early years, I used to look at other comedians making it big and wonder, man, what am I doing wrong? I thought maybe I didn't have what it takes. But see, what I didn't realize was that my path wasn't supposed to look like theirs. They had their time, and I had mine. God wasn't saying no. He was saying not yet. And when my time finally came, I was ready for it because I had gone through the lessons, the failures, the heartbreaks that built my character. If I had gotten success too early, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Sometimes the delay is part of the design. You got to understand, life ain't a race. It's a journey. Some people start running early, some people longer to find their stride, and some people don't even realize they're in the race until halfway through. But the destination is not what defines you. It's the perseverance to keep running when you could have given up. When you keep comparing, you start rushing. And when you rush, you skip the lessons that were meant to prepare you. You can't harvest in season 2 what was meant to grow in season 5. Let me tell you something real. There will always be someone ahead of you. Always. Somebody's going to have more money, a bigger house, a nicer car, a better title. And that's fine, because that's their lane. Your blessing isn't on their road, it's on yours. But if you keep swerving into their lane, you'll miss what's meant for you. That's how people lose their joy. Not because they don't have enough, but because they can't appreciate what they already have. Gratitude and comparison can't live in the same house. When one walks in, the other walks out. Now, I know it's hard. I know what it feels like to see people around you moving faster. Your friends getting married, your classmates buying houses, your coworkers getting promoted. And you're sitting there thinking, man, I'm still struggling to get it together. But let me remind you, delay does not mean denial. Just because it hasn't happened, yet doesn't mean it won't. You're not behind schedule. You're right on time for what's meant for you. God don't work on your calendar, He works on His. And His timing is always perfect. The danger of comparison is that it blinds you to your own progress. You can't see how far you've come because you're too busy looking at someone else's distance. Think about it. Maybe you used to cry yourself to sleep, and now you've learned to pray instead. Maybe you used to break down over small things, and now you hold your peace. Maybe you used to doubt yourself every day, and now you believe in yourself more often than not. That's growth. That's success. But if you're only measuring yourself against somebody else, you'll never see how strong you've become. I remember when I first started hosting shows, people said, Steve, you're doing too much. You're in comedy, TV, radio, pick one lane. But I didn't listen. Because I wasn't built to follow someone else's blueprint. I was building my own. And because I stayed in my lane, because I stopped worrying about what everybody else was doing, I ended up creating opportunities that were meant specifically for me. You can't reach your potential while chasing someone else's destiny. Here's what I've learned the moment you stop comparing. You start creating. Your mind gets clearer. Your confidence grows. You start focusing on what you can control, your effort, your mindset, your faith. You realize that life isn't about being better than someone else. It's about being better than you were yesterday. Every day you wake up and do something that moves you 1 inch closer to your goal, that's victory. You don't need to win the race. You just need to keep running. Sometimes people will look like they're winning while you're still waiting. But let me tell you something. Not every win is what it looks like. Some people are shining on the outside, but breaking on the inside. Some people have what you want, but lost what you already have: peace, love, happiness. So don't envy what you don't understand. What's meant for you won't miss you. And what's not meant for you won't stay, no matter how hard you chase it. You got to trust the timing of your life. You got to believe that everything you've gone through, every setback, every disappointment, every delay, it's all part of the setup for your breakthrough. Stop looking sideways. Start looking forward. Keep your eyes on your own road and run your own race. Because when your time comes, and it will come, no force on earth can stop it. Don't let the world rush you into things you're not ready for. Don't let social media make you feel like you're late. You're not late. You're in development. And development takes time. The seed that's underground doesn't envy the flower that's blooming, because it knows its turn is coming. Right now, God might be growing your roots deep so you can stand strong when your season comes. You got to learn to clap for others without questioning yourself. Somebody else's success doesn't mean your failure. The light shining on them doesn't dim yours. The sun rises for everybody. So when you see someone winning, celebrate them. Because your celebration shows you believe in abundance. And the more you believe in abundance, the more abundance finds its way to you. So don't let comparison steal your joy. Don't let it make you rush your process. Your story is still being written, and it's going to be beautiful. But only if you let it unfold in its own time. Stay patient, stay focused, stay grateful. Because you're not behind, you're just being prepared. And when preparation meets opportunity, that's when the magic happens. Ladies and gentlemen, I came here tonight to tell you something that took me years to understand. Failure is not the end. It's not the signal to stop. It's not proof that you don't have what it takes. Failure is just part of the process that leads you to greatness. Every single person who ever made it to the top fell down first. Every champion was once a beginner who failed more times than most people even tried. But see, the difference between winners and quitters is simple. Winners keep getting up. We live in a world where failure has become a bad word. People are scared of it. Scared to take chances. Scared to start over. Scared to step out because they don't want to fail. But let me tell you something. If you never fail, it means you never tried. Failure has not price of growth. It's the tuition you pay to learn the lessons success can't teach. You can't build strength without struggle. You can't build wisdom without mistakes. You can't build faith without tests. I failed so many times I lost count. I failed in school, failed in business, failed in relationships. I got fired from jobs I needed, lost money I couldn't afford to lose, and heard no more times than I can remember. But every one of those failures taught me something that success never could. Failure taught me resilience. Failure taught me humility. Failure taught me to depend on God more than I depended on myself. If I hadn't fallen, I would have never learned how to rise. When I first started doing stand-up, I wasn't good. I thought I was, but the audience told me otherwise. I bombed so bad one night that I wanted to quit right there. I went home broke, embarrassed, questioning why I ever thought I could make people laugh for a living. But you know what? That night taught me more than all the good shows combined. It showed me where I needed to grow. It showed me that talent alone ain't enough. You need perseverance. And from that moment, I promised myself that no matter how many times I failed, I'd never stop showing up. Because failure only wins when you quit. See, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. You can't get to the mountaintop without walking through the valley. Every great story has a struggle. Think about it. You don't read books or watch movies about people who had it easy. The power is in the comeback, not the comfort. Your failures are setting the stage for your comeback. The more you fail, the more you're being refined, reshaped, and redirected toward what's meant for you. Sometimes failure is protection. You think it's rejection, but it's really direction. That job you didn't get, that door that closed, that deal that fell apart. Maybe it wasn't failure. Maybe it was God saying, I got something better for you. But you can't see that when you're in the middle of it. All you see is the pain, the disappointment, the embarrassment. You think it's over. But let me tell you, it's never over unless you stop believing. The truth is, you can't be afraid to fail, because fear of failure will paralyze you. It'll stop you from taking the steps that lead to your destiny. You'll spend your whole life playing it safe, staying comfortable, and wondering what could have been. And that's a slow kind of pain, the pain of regret. I'd rather fail trying than with the regret of never knowing what could have happened if I had just tried one more time. You got to change the way you see failure. Stop seeing it as a loss and start seeing it as a lesson. Every time you fall, you learn something new about yourself, your limits, your strength, your potential. You realize that you thought would break you actually built you. Every scar is a reminder that you survived something you once thought you couldn't. And when you stop to see failure that way, it stops being scary. It becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. Let me tell you, some of the most successful people in the world have failed more than anyone else. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah got fired from her first TV job. I was homeless for 3 years, living out of my car. But see, the story didn't end there. It couldn't, because I didn't let it. I kept believing that every failure was pushing me closer to where I needed to be. Failure builds character. It strips a way to go and shows you who you really are. It makes you humble, it makes you hungry, and it makes you appreciate success when it finally comes. If everything came easy, you wouldn't value it. You wouldn't fight for it. Failure makes the victory sweeter because you know what it cost you. You know what it took to get there. That's why people who've been through something have a different kind of strength. They've learned how to turn pain into power. Don't let it make you better. Let it make you better. Don't let it close your heart. Let it open your mind. Every time you fail, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is this trying to teach me? Because sometimes failure is not about punishment. It's about preparation. It's preparing you for the next level, for the blessing you've been praying for. You just don't see it yet because the lesson is still unfolding. You might be going through a failure right now. Maybe in your career, maybe in your dreams, maybe in your personal life. Maybe you feel like everything's falling apart and nothing is working. But hear me when I say this, it's not over. You're not done. This is just the chapter before the breakthrough. Don't close the book when God's still writing your story. The mess you're in today might be the message that inspires somebody tomorrow. So don't fear failure. Embrace it. Because every failure brings you closer to your greatness. Every setback sets the stage for a comeback. You might not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and say, that failure saved me. That failure taught me. That failure helped me. And when you get to that point, you'll realize you were never failing. You were just growing. You were learning how to rise after you fall. You were learning how to trust the process when you couldn't see the plan. And that's where greatness begins. Not when everything goes right, but when you keep going after everything goes wrong. That's the D